Hey everyone, this is Gleb Bakhmutov, and with me is my friend Murat. Can I call you my friend?
Sometimes you can call me your friend, yes.
Depending on how this recording goes, right?
Yes.
But I'll call you my friend for now. My friend Murat Ozcan. Murat, how are you doing?
Excellent. Thank you very much. How
I'm
about you?
glad to hear that. Murat, you have some news, right? I heard you have a course out
I
recently.
do have a course out. Yes, I was recently unemployed and I got mad at this, so I mastered a new topic.
Oh my
Uh,
goodness.
so I thought I could just release a course about it because when you're teaching, you're also learning better. So this was motivating, and I can share that. We can talk about it, and we can like
Okay, okay. So one lesson is that anger-driven development works, right?
100%.
What's the name of the course?
It's called Playwright and Vitest versus Cypress, the Epic Showdown. It's on
Oh my
Udemy.
goodness. It's a freeway competition?
Three-way competition. For component test, three-way, but for everything else, it's two-way between Playwright and Cypress.
Oh, sounds wonderful. So with a free top test runners, component testing is hot topic. Where does that course live? What platform?
It's on Udemy.
Demi, we're gonna put a link in the description of this video, so you'll find the course. What's the regular price right now?
Right now, I believe there's maybe, I think, a coupon
Okay.
for, I think it's going, yeah, it might even be on sale. It's either 50 or less than 50. There's
Okay,
a good
well,
deal right now.
for top free tools, hands-on, end-to-end, and component testing, that's very good price. So highly recommend purchasing the course. But why don't we actually see some examples of component testing, right? Do you mind sharing your screen and showing us like the first example?
All right, let's look at a simple example. So let me send a request for
Okay,
sharing.
I allow it. Would be fine if I didn't allow you, right?
All
No, just explain it with words.
right, is it visible? Does it work? Do you see my desktop? Did it let me? Let me see desktop one. I guess this is okay.
Okay, now I can see it. Yeah, I see a
Okay.
VS Code.
Okay. If I drag some
Oh, this is
browser,
the,
you see the browser?
I see the browser. That's the
Okay.
Udemy course.
All right. This is the Udemy course. All right.
Okay,
Can
that's the link we'll put in the description.
yes. All right. So just want to make sure we can drag something and that's visible because we're going to look at three things at once.
Oof.
Um, okay. So I had some notes to make the start as simple as possible. So maybe we can look at the source folder, components. Uh, we have some movie list. Okay. This is maybe this is not that simple to pick here, but maybe
What's the
yeah.
simplest movie form? Like a
Well,
sim
movie form is not simple. One sec. Let's look. Movie edit. Look at
so
this. Okay, that's simple enough. Yes.
this
Let's
is
let's start simple. This is simple.
this is a React project, right?
This is a
You
React project. Yes,
using Vite bundler, right? If I believe you.
using Vite Bundler. Correct. So
Okay.
even with Cypress tests, we are using Vite, and
Mhm.
yeah, we started looking at the component. For those that are even familiar with Cypress, let's just start the test with Cypress. So open CT is the command to open it.
All
This
right.
is Vite. It's actually super fast, right?
Right.
See, movie edit form. By the
Right.
way, React 19 update came and Cypress is giving a warning about it, but it seems to
Yeah,
work
that
fine.
should be fine, right? And you're using like version 13 of Cypress right here. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
13.17.
whatever's latest is done.
Mm-hmm.
Renovate bot is running here. So we are looking at movie edit form. Okay, that's this one.
So you're using a Chrome browser and
Oh,
it already finished, right? So
yeah. I mean, with Vite, Cypress component testing is pretty fast.
yeah.
And as usual, like you can interact with the component, inspect it, all that, right?
Right,
And like
because what you
you can,
see is the live browser page with component mounted and running.
yes, and
Okay.
pay attention to this. Like as you interact with the component, it is actually making real calls. So
Yeah.
this is, I think, a big differentiator. Like you can ad hoc the component and know what's happening. So keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Um, so in the test is quite simple. We have a network intercept of the put
Mhm.
request that's hitting the movie's ID endpoint, and we want steps 200 from there. We
Mhm.
have a custom mount, and which we can take a look at that later. So that's like the key point in component testing. You have a mount, and you have a network intercept, and then you just interact with the UI.
Mm-hmm.
click around, and basically we hit cancel, and then we make sure that cancel is called once. And then we have a network request, and then we scrutinize the network request that it is actually the movie that is there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Can I ask you a question, right? So this is a hello world, but it actually has three different things, right? That kind of show things. Like so you mount in the component, it starts running. Perfect. You also use a network intercept to stop the request that the component is making live. So component thinks it's doing everything it's supposed to do, right? You're not stopping other components, right? You're not stopping somewhere inside the code. You're literally saying, I'm going to stop the network call at the edge of a browser. So that's the inside intercept. And you're also passing a prop on cancel, which is a stop function, right? That you create on the fly right
Yes.
there in a spec. And then you check that it has been called. So component, network control, and spies as props. Okay.
Yes. So we saw the Cypress version of it, and let's look at the Playwright version of it.
Mm-hmm.
So Playwright also has component testing, although it's in beta.
Mm-hmm.
So let's scrutinize it first, side by side.
And, uh,
So
and I have to say that it's been in beta for a while, right? And
it
Cypress
might stay
also,
in beta.
you might stay in beta, right? And
Yes.
Cypress had its component testing in beta for like years, even though you could have
Yes.
been using it, right? But
Right.
so, okay, so this is Playwright syntax to do the same thing, right?
Correct. Yes, this is the same thing. So Playwright doesn't have a spy stop feature built in, so we use sign on for it. Your
Yeah,
only other option is to invent your own.
right.
But it is similar enough. So just note that with sign on, we have to, like the meta way is to create the sandbox and restore the sandbox after each
Right.
test.
Mm-hmm.
The maybe one difference is like with Cypress, since you have to use the side global, it has to be under the edge block, but this on cancel could go out here. It could be
Right.
the same thing. So maybe that's one difference. Mounting the component, but the argument is exactly the same. So that's a nice part, right? Like you can
Right.
copy paste the argument. You await it, and then you have to assign it to a constant. And then basically you chain off that component with all the selectors.
Ooh, okay, gotcha, gotcha. You have to keep it
Little bit
organized.
work, but you can keep it concise a little bit. This I think the key differentiator between the three things, this Vitest and Cypress and Playwright, is the network interception.
Mm,
Uh, I don't like the base network interception in Playwright, so I wrote my own. As you see, it's much so easy to use. So if you're spying, it's this much, and if you're stubbing, we use fulfill response, and then boom, put it in. Right, this is it.
gotcha, gotcha.
Much easier to use. So that makes it manageable. Otherwise, this is not manageable.
I actually,
Anyway,
can you peek inside intercept network call your helper just to kind of see what it does inside?
so
Uh,
this is the main call, but it does. I try to
uh,
keep it as nicely abstract as possible. So we either fulfill the network call or observe it, and then if we fulfill the network call,
oh,
there's
okay.
a bit. So this could be an NPM package, right?
Yeah.
There's it's about 200 lines. Even in my course, I don't go through it. I just
Mhm.
tell people copy paste this and go over it on your own. This is gonna take forever to explain. Yeah, and
Gotcha, gotcha.
I haven't battle tested it in everywhere. So if you find issues with it, let me know.
Uh,
But in 5 repositories, it's working. Um, yeah,
So you mounted the component, you set up the network intercept, you prepared for the call to be made, right? Then you execute the click, and the click is pretty similar in both test runners, right?
yes, very similar. And you're using the same selectors. So I edited the default playwright selector to use data side because that was in place in all the components.
Right.
So
It's weird that Playwright doesn't have a built-in data sci. It's, I'm just,
I mean, it's just in the config file. I mean, so through the helper, we wait for the network. The request JSON is again that's something we get out of this helper.
hmm
So the network call result, these are the things it gives. So with Playwright, when you get some network result, you have to do await.json and then
yeah,
shape it, all this stuff, right? This is busy work. So I just destructure that out and then I get what I need, right? This is all I need. And I believe like Playwright gives you all the tools and everything, and it really expects people to like fine tune and optimize to whatever they want because everybody's got their own opinions, right?
mhm,
So in my course, I show like the classic way with the Playwright and the helper way. Like you'll see more Playwright tests in the
yeah,
cPandas, for instance, than Cypress because there's like two versions of some things.
right.
So let's run the test and see what happens.
And
And
then
our
take a look at Vitest, right? After we,
yeah, third would be Vitest, right?
okay.
Okay. So this one is movie edit form. I think this one right here. No,
Yeah, this is nice, right? Like you can run this test. Okay, so what do we see here?
we do see the component that like we're clicking the cancel. Of course, this is not interactable. Like this is kind of like a fake thing, right?
Yeah,
Um,
it's a dumb snapshot, but you see it, right?
Right. But so like we click that cancel and then we hit the update movie. Thankfully, we do see the network request. Like we hit fetch
Yeah,
on the network, we do see that. So that's good. It actually has the request value too. So sometimes you might not get this. Like might go to some examples that like there's a status, but there's no body. But most of the time we do get it. So that's good. And then to match objects. One thing I like in Playwright is like when you click on these things, you can see
yeah,
exactly when the source code that is. That's perfect. That's amazing. The other thing I don't like is like when I click on something, some contextual data, like it says some expected
yeah.
object. Why don't you give me the whole thing? That shouldn't be that difficult. So I can't say that much about this example. And we can move on to Vite unless you want to talk about anything else here.
No, and the speed is approximately the same, right? So this was like 386 milliseconds, and
Okay, so
yeah,
the speed in the test is the same, but I was maybe we'll do look at the speed at the end because the test execution in Cypress is very minuscule compared to everything else that
yeah,
takes time before and after. This is the problem of Cypress,
yeah.
and I'll show demo at the end. We'll do a full run, and then we'll see. We'll talk about that.
Okay,
Um,
let's see Vite, right?
let's see it. Okay. Uh, so I'll keep the Playwright version open maybe, and we can also look at the Cypress just because real estate. So I named it Vitest.tsx.
Yeah,
But by the way, I am so confident of the TypeScript settings in this repository, all these different types of tests, the types
yeah,
not clashing. Is a
mhm,
meta setup. So if you want to master how to learn it, look at this repo or take the course.
yeah,
Uh, I put a lot of time into it. So with Vite, I'm doing a few tricks. So number one reason I like Vite is because you can immediately come from just RTL combination to Vitest and RTL combination. But I need to show you a few other things. I'm using MSW,
right.
and the things that we need to do here are Vitest utils. So source test utils. So there are some packed utils here and Vitest utils. So you can put these however you want.
Hmm.
But first thing I want to let you know, there's a MSW setup
Hmm.
that sets up the worker, and there is a Vitest setup that is using the MSW setup.
Yeah,
Usually for Vitest, this is all you need. But I realized while using MSW, things will act differently in open mode and run mode of Vitest. So this is all stuff that needs to be there for run mode to work nicely with MSW. Right? So usually just copy it and work from there. Uh,
right.
not very pretty, but one-time configuration. For okay, you see a custom mount here. Maybe that's another topic we can talk about. So between React Testing Library and Cypress, custom mounts are very similar. I kept it to one custom mount on the React Testing Library side. On the Cypress side, I'm doing some composition here. So they're like two custom mounts, but
Right.
the later one supersedes the previous one. I could do the same thing here, but I realized in Playwright there is no such thing. So since this is key, maybe we covered that right now. The Playwright, of course, it looks similar, but we have this hooks config option here, so we'll see one usage of that. But pretty much we mount our component the way the component is used in the application.
Exactly, right? Because all those components in React, they rely on context and router setup, and they have to be around it. So you cannot just mount the component. You have to say, put this component inside all this boilerplate code, like if it were inside real application.
So since with Vitest, we have to make like three things work together. We have to make Vitest work, we have to make
Yeah,
MSW work, and we have to make RTL work. So I
yeah.
thought, okay, let me just put all this stuff in one place because I don't want to import nine, 10 things from different places. So everything is here that we needed,
Okay.
and we are also exporting the Vitest things and the MSW things and React testing library things. So if you want to learn how to do the setup, take the course or just look at the repository. Everything's there. The course just me basically narrating through it as I'm building it.
And Murat,
Okay.
this React consumer repo, is it public?
Yes, it is public. So this is, if you look at my repositories, It's also the one I use there. So there's a pair of three repositories in the course. One of them, there are three repositories. One of them is this React consumer, which is React basically. One of them is just consumer. So this is like, think of it like a service.
Okay.
I think the cool trick in the comparison of Playwright versus Cypress is that like we're basically mastering side task in this one. But the cool thing in Playwright is there's no side task needed. Everything's Node. You just import
Yeah.
from the source code. So I think that's beautiful, and it has implications with Playwright and different languages. So if you're using like a Python, Java backend, drop Playwright in, and the people are going to be at home. The third one is the provider, and that one is pure API testing. Right? If you want to master API testing with Cypress, so think of this like a provider service. The reason we have these is originally my first course on Udemy, which I released a few months ago, which got me fired. It's so good it got me fired. That one is about consumer-driven contract testing. So to cover all the different ways of doing it, I needed three repositories, but then I realized, I also am covering like every different kind of testing with Cypress, and then drop Playwright on top was the next course, basically. So these are the repositories.
Okay. We're going to put a link in the description of the video to
sounds good.
consumer.
All right, so all the Vitest things we're importing from a central location, the component and all that, and these constants are the same. VFN is like just FN, so it comes with its own thing, or side stub, exactly the same thing. Wrap render is our helper to mount something. The argument it takes is exactly the same. And then if you look at the interactions with RTL, we have user event to click something. We have that. And on cancel to have been called once, this is similar, right? It's similar enough.
Right.
The key point here is the usage of MSW. So for MSW, we have a certain syntax here. Put request, we have to have this base URL here. Like it won't work with just the path. It has to have the full thing. And we have to make a little the TypeScript happy here, because to get the request body, we have to use the request argument and JSON out of it. And what we return is the most important. Now, the only reason we're making this assignment here so we can capture what's going out. So yes, a little bit clunky, but good thing they added support, because they didn't have this kind of support before in MSW. So it's new. So the first argument of this response is the body you want to return. Second argument is option. So all I care is status 200 here, nothing else. So that is the translation of what we have there. Then the click, and then the expectation. And one thing you have to know about RTL is these expects are synchronous. So if it's like a synchronous call that has to like await, you have await wait for. In Playwright, you don't have that. We already kind of like got this await here, so we don't have to await this. With Vitest, you have to have that. So let's look at the test then. Movie edit form in Vitest. This is npm run Vitest open.
And you have configured Vitest to actually use the Playwright browser control, right?
Yeah, good one. Let's take a look at that real quick. We looked at the Vitest config files, all that. You have to use Vite to use Vitest. So here is our Vite config. Pretty familiar, I guess. It's Vite 5. I haven't updated to Vite 6 yet, but I soon will. Then we have Vitest config, which is using the base config, and then adding certain things. So we do that Playwright setting here, and environment setting here, which is using the Vitest setup file. So this is how things run in the beginning. So think of this like the Cypress config file, and some settings here that are generic. But then we have two other files, one for browser and one for headless. So our package.json scripts use either or, right? The only difference here is headless true, headless false. This is it.
Just to comparison to config, right? Can you show your Playwright config file? It's down.
Playwright config.
It's in a root folder down below.
Okay, yes. So you can't move the component test config, by the way, for Playwright. It's always here. So what I did with Playwright, I did something I like to do with Cypress. So I put for end-to-end, I put the config files. I mean, Playwright lets you put them anywhere, but they are under PW folder under config. We have a base with all the base settings. And if you have different deployments, they go here, right? And usually the main thing that changes is the URL. This is the same exact thing I do in Cypress, and I think it's pretty cool. But with the component, I'm making sure to get the base config. So with the Playwright config, I am getting the not only the Vite config, right? Getting the base Vite config,
Yeah.
adding some aliases because it makes life easier, and also using the base config in the Playwright base config. So I mean, this is the same kind of deal we have in Cypress. If you look at the Cypress config, I mean, it's not that wild. Whatever we're doing with Playwright, we also
Mhm.
have to do with Cypress with the whole config. Right? So this config may take some headache, but this SQL set's a good example of doing it. And
Mhm.
with Playwright, Vite, like you don't have Webpack, only Vite.
Right.
If you're on Cypress Webpack, I would recommend to try it Vite because the performance is so much better.
Right. So
Okay.
now you just finished writing running the Vite test, right, in Chromium. So
Yes.
what do we see here? Can we find the
Let's look at
same?
that. Movie edit form. So this is the test. Let's see.
Hmm.
So there are things I like about this. We can interact with it. But if we put it back to light mode, some components are not viewable in dark mode. And let me move this. I don't know if like, is that going to be in the video? I don't know, but
Yeah.
I like to look at the network tab
Yeah.
and XHR. I think we get some things here. Yes, that we do get things here. And this is like the exact thing we get in a real browser, right? Like we do see the network response, and this is like 101. So I like this here. Like as we're clicking, we actually do get it also
Right.
in here. So this is more realistic than Playwright's version of it. It's similar to Cypress.
But you don't see kind of like a command log of a test right here, right?
Correct. The only thing you see is this
Yeah.
code. Like you can edit it, or you can edit it in your IDE, and it's there. There's console, but there's no command log,
Right.
right?
So you
So
don't know what it did, right? You don't see when it
yeah.
clicked, right? There are no time traveling debugger, for example.
Correct. So you would have to do something like that, comment it, but it's not really the idea. So comment it and then run it again. But compared with our RTL, like React Testing Library,
Yeah.
before you were fully in the dark, you had no code.
Yeah.
Now you have a UI. So this is a huge improvement for many people that think of React Testing Library at Dogma, and that's probably 80% of the whole JavaScript community.
Right.
So I think it's a huge improvement. I do like it. So this is a simple test, but we can do a few more examples maybe.
Why don't we see one more example, right? Before we go, right? So people who are right now using, let's say, Jest and React Testing Library, right? You would recommend them to switch, right, to one of those three. It doesn't matter. Like probably Vitest is the simplest.
To make a switch, Vitest will be the simplest. I
Right.
mean, at this point, I think as a JavaScript community, when we're working in front end components, there are three good choices
Right.
to have a UI. I would definitely try these out. For those that use RTL, if you use Vite, Playwright, and Vitest are your options. You should
Right.
definitely consider Vite because your build times and everything are going to be much faster.
Hmm.
You can test localhost like you test production. So in PRs, you can actually test production.
Yeah.
Amazing. Um, but I think that basically like the main thing that changes is in this there's this one utils. This render method is the main thing that
That's
changes. So
it. Yeah.
usually this is from React Testing Library, but now we just get it from Vitest. You install Playwright, and of course you do this configuration with the browsers and whatnot, and then it's there. So it would take some effort just to do the configuration, maybe do the Vite config, but it's totally worth it. If you're married to RTL, the tests almost don't change. So maybe
Yeah.
the jest spy and stubs change, but VFN replaces it. I think all the rest works very similarly with Vite. So people will like it, in my opinion.
Gotcha. While you bring up another example, I have to say that you have to think about which tools you want to use for end-to-end tests and for component tests. And if you could have one tool that does both pretty well, using the same syntax, the same features, the same test runner, I would actually pick that. Because you don't want to have two testing tools, right? If you can have one that does both pretty well, I think that actually is an advantage. Okay,
Yeah.
so what are we looking at here?
Maybe I was looking for like some size spy, like to be called with. Okay. Maybe like this one we can keep it a little shorter, because
Mhm.
I wanted to show like when we mount a component,
Mhm.
and then we scrutinize the on delete request, like how does that compare between the different frameworks? So this
Okay,
is the movie list component. because I want to show also a third example. So this one will just focus on the part that matters. So this is actually a very simple test. Like imagine this third test. There's this list, and then we just click delete button, and a delete call is made. We
Hmm.
want to make sure that's done with the movie ID.
Okay.
That's all it is, and that's all. So let's just minimize this too, so it doesn't distract us. So let's look at the Playwright version of the same thing. I
So
mean, as you see,
we mount the component. It has two movie objects. You click button for each DOM uh, item in a list, and when you record two uh, network calls, I mean spy calls, right, for your
spy calls.
function,
No, no, yes, spy, yes, correct.
and you confirm the attribute of a call. Okay, perfect.
Correct. Yes. So we have the mount on the Playwright side, same deal as before. We check for visibility. Like
Mhm.
this is that. And then one thing we have to work with Playwright is like if you have the same selector for many components, yes, you have to wrestle this a little bit. This is all the movie items. It's the API is very imperative, right?
Yeah,
And then you have to use you have to do a similar thing in the Vitest. So I'll keep this up. But for the checks, right?
yeah.
Click the things, the spy call, call twice to be since we're using sign on, that's the same thing. This is just the alternative, same thing. Like you could have like 7 calls, right? And called with, slightly different, but it's still using sign on, right? So this is how we do it.
I have to say, in Cypress, they use sign-on for all the spying and stubbing for functions. Anyway, we just wrap it so that it's all nicely
Yeah.
done.
It's
Okay.
all it's all here, right? So I kept that the same because when I researched Playwright, like we're not going to do anything about this.
Yeah.
And people are like people want to use Jest, and other people are like, hey, there's sign on already. Why you take the heavyweight Jest? Just do the specialized thing. So sign on just does a fine job with Playwright does.
I think because Playwright ultimately runs in Node, and you don't have access to, spies and stubs to pass it to
Correct.
front-end code. So
And that is one shortcoming in Playwright E2E. Like you don't have, I mean, you have to invent your own spying and stubbing
yeah.
most of the time. They do show you, but it's much painful.
Okay, so
Um,
Vitest kind of looks the same, right?
yes, this you find much similar. So let's just close the Cypress one. We have more space. What do we have differently here? So again, like multiple items sort of thing. Uh, we have to loop through it. But the difference here is that with Playwright, this has to be a asynchronous call. So we have to await it. That's why we have to use for await of.
Yeah.
With Vitest or RTL, we can use for each because the page is already settled by
Yeah,
the
but
time this
like
has happened.
I hear what you're saying, right? But if an item becomes like is added to the DOM and then becomes invisible, right? If it doesn't happen instantly, then you would have to add like a wait, like act all that jazz so it retries in Vite, right?
Yes, you have to, yeah, these are the things you have to
You have
do.
to
Yeah,
implement retries yourself of that piece of code.
yeah, very. But somehow the whole community is like okay with it. They've used it, so they don't complain.
I,
Um, and the assertions like in Vitest are the same as Jest, so I think people will be quite at home with how it is in
Hmm.
Vitest. So that's it for this one.
Yeah, but
Uh,
we're
let's
running
go
out
ahead.
of time, so why don't we see it in action, right? Like, what do you
Yes.
see for all three test runners in this?
Let's look at this movie list now. So we see this over here, which is okay.
Yeah, but like, did it confirm it?
I mean, yeah, you don't really see the steps as
Yeah,
long as it didn't fail, all good,
right.
right? Um,
So you
yeah,
don't have any like record visually like of
no,
kind
yeah,
like
no,
okay.
we don't have that. So that's what we're missing over in Vitesse side.
Yeah.
Movie list.
Playwright should do it better.
Playwright does it better, yeah. And we just want to run this test here.
Okay, so we see to be visible assertions to have length, right? Kind
Yeah,
of
we see those. We see the clicks. So
dump
this is
snapshot.
better, right?
Right, but this assertions like expect to be because it doesn't know about Sinon, right? You kind
Yes.
of check true, 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 right? Like nothing.
At least you get that. With the network thing, we weren't getting anything, right? So
Right.
previously, so it's slightly better in that sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
Okay.
mean, yes. So I'll say my comments at the end. But I have time for one more example,
No,
a
no,
little more
but
example.
show the Cypress, right? Because we've seen
Oh, we have
Vitest,
Cypress.
right? We
I think we looked at the Cypress one right in the beginning, right?
did we? Okay. Okay.
It was so fast that you didn't realize, right? Like
Oh, we
like
did
you were
not
done.
go, we did not look at the command log, right? But we can see the
Yeah, we
events,
can.
right? Clicks, and we see the executions of each spy and stub and okay.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Sorry about that. Okay. We have 5 minutes exactly. So what do you want
5 minutes. So, I mean, if you have 5 minutes, maybe we leave like the most exciting one for people who take the course.
to? Okay.
But take
That's
a
a good
look
start.
at the movie details example. I think the biggest differentiator in between the three becomes like the whole network interception makes a whole lot of code length difference, right?
Yeah.
You can make it better with Playwright. So this is one where like we're maybe just waiting for the network to like get some response.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I realized with Playwright, unless you do some assertions afterwards, you don't really see the visible component, right? Like for
Exactly.
instance, like here, I don't really care like the third and fourth test. It's just we're just giving like a different kind of payload and we're checking the request, right? So
We
in the
don't even
third and
check the UI. We just check who.
yeah, because we don't care. Like, that's done elsewhere, right? But it's maybe we want some sanity to see the UI like that it actually worked.
Yeah.
Like if you look at this third and fourth test, we're not going to see any UI here, right? It's
Yeah.
going to work. The whole network assertions they work, but we don't see it. Only in the first two tests, there's like one check, and then we do see the
Okay.
component. So that I'm not too keen on with Playwright. With Vitest, and if you want to master movie details, this is the one. Yes. With Vitest, we do see it, right? No matter
Yeah.
what, we do see it. With Vitest, though, we can't really like individually run the test. So we would have to do like dot only.
Right.
But I do like how, let's say, like we do a dot only with the Vitest version of this. Let's do a dot only. And then here we can take like a high level look also. Like really good usage of MSW, basically. This is the whole test. And we have to do wait for. I mean, it is simple, right?
Right.
Once you get MSW right, the rest of the test is just visibility checks and everything. But let's look at this one. So with Playwright, we were not seeing any network, but or like any UI unless we check for it. With the Vitest, we do see it. Even if we don't do the visibility check, we see it, and we also see the like
Yeah.
network call, right? We do see that. That is good. So this network call, like if you look at this test, the same thing over here, right? Nothing. So you're not always guaranteed to see network calls. So it's in beta, we'll cut them some slack. But
Hmm.
the experience may differ. So if you look at the same test in Cypress, I I mean you get the full thing, right? You
Right.
get the whole experience.
And not just you see network calls, you see them in order of commands in the test, so you understand what happens after what.
Right.
Okay, Murat, really
I
quick.
have final comments.
Okay, final
Okay, I
comment. You
have
have 1 minute
final
left.
comment. I have one minute. So hey, I will remind you, you're stressing me now. But we have to see this final thing. So let's run the test with Cypress. And I'm an advanced user of Cypress, and I know how to use it most efficiently with all
Yeah,
the pre-processes
yeah,
and everything, right? So we'll run it, and we'll let that cook, and we'll run Playwright over here.
yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So Playwright already finished 3.9 seconds. Cypress, it's going to report 3 seconds, but this is more like 11 seconds.
Yeah, that doesn't count like startup and loading, right?
Yes, these things add up in CI.
Yeah.
So let's do a V-test, like
Yeah, very
2.9 seconds,
fast.
so
Yeah.
3 seconds. So this is the differentiator. Now, my problem with Cypress is when I have 2,000 tests and I'm using Webpack,
Yeah.
even starting Cypress is like taking 2 minutes. I believe the Cypress definitely development is going to be faster because you see everything, right?
Right.
With the others, you see some parts sometimes.
Yeah.
But compared to what people had before and what they
Yeah.
used to, it's a big level up. The main differentiator, like if Cypress can catch up with the CI speeds, which do make a huge difference in scale,
Right.
and then I think Cypress is ahead of the game. However, they have to invest in the core product to make it super more performant.
Ooh, are you
Uh,
saying we have to invest in test runner again? Oh,
Now, this is where Cypress lacks.
yeah.
Playwright, yes, more performant, but less developer experience. But people are okay with this.
Yeah.
People are fine with it.
All right.
Final
Well,
words, Vitest is
yes.
probably a good choice for people that have been very accustomed to RTL and easy to migrate. So I would definitely consider this.
Yeah, definitely. If you're RTL and just try it out, it should not be too big of a lift if you're using Vite already. Murat, this was very impressive. Congratulations on your course. Where should people follow you if they want to see more of your courses, announcements, videos?
Okay, so if you're not on connected on LinkedIn, we can definitely get connected on LinkedIn. That's one place.
Are
I
you
do have.
are you opening your browser? Because right now you're just showing. Okay, yeah, now we can see it.
I was hoping to, like, while I'm talking, do something.
Yeah,
And so if you're not on LinkedIn, you can definitely connect on LinkedIn. I'm not really so much on Twitter anymore.
yeah,
Uh, but I might be. LinkedIn is one place. Uh, I do have a YouTube channel, although it's
yeah,
not as great as wonderful as yours. I do share, like, if something's difficult, I
yeah.
share it here. I seem to be on Udemy too now. They have two courses,
Hmm.
so I'll, if I'm unemployed for longer, I'll release more. But that's it.
I hope for not for long.
Not for hopefully. And then I have the GitHub profile, so if you want to check out my GitHub profile, many examples there. Uh,
Okay, thank you. We're gonna put all these links into the description of the video. Well, Murat, thank you so much for doing this work, right? For releasing the course and then taking time to show us all these examples. I think they're pretty interesting and cutting edge. So I appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you so much. Bye.